Last question of the day. This is, of course, the one where we're gonna have to have a serious discussion here. How many rings will it take for LeBron James to be considered the GOAT? I feel like the answer for Arlington is there isn't a number because it's never gonna happen.
He gets surpassed him, gets 7, and still won't be the greatest of all time.
So, I personally think it's not as much about the rings, but so much more about the other accomplishments that would go with the rings. So, let's say LeBron gets to 6. Just throw it out there. Lakers win this year, and they win another one before LeBron retires. 6 finals wins. We would assume that he doesn't have any more finals losses. So he's 6-6 in the finals, 500 record. He's already, I think, the all-time leading scorer in playoff history. He's getting pretty damn close to Kareem as the all-time leading scorer in NBA history. He's going to be at 10,000 rebounds. He's going to be at 10,000 assists. Will be the only player with 30,000 points, 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists. He will probably, I'm assuming if he wins 6 rings, he has to have at least 5 finals MVPs. Maybe that last one gets a little dicey depending on what age we're talking about, but he's going to at least have 5 finals MVPs. I think at that point, the resume just becomes too overwhelming. Like, at some point, the numbers just start stacking up. And, again, you have to factor in the fact that Mike played, 3 years at North Carolina where LeBron got to go straight to the league from high school.
Yep.
He took almost 2 years off in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
He then also came back and played 2 years as a senior citizen, essentially, compared to the guys he was going against at the time, and also still averaging 20 a game. So one of the more underrated stats to me that doesn't get talked about a lot from Mike is the fact that he was 39 years old and averaging 20 a game on the guys that we thought he was not better than anymore.
Did it in his final year, too, 40.
So you mean to tell me that this 40-year-old, like, his average for his career is 30 points a game with those 2 seasons still factored in?
Yep.
Like that. So, again, Mike's case is rock solid. It's rock solid. It's not. He got so many different things that you, and then you also, for Mike's case, that something that factors in his favor. A lot of the folks like yourself that grew up with Mike's career.
Yep.
There's nothing like what Mike felt like for basketball in the moment.
Yep.
We only got a brief snippet of it of the, I want to be like Mike commercials. He was the most recognizable face on the planet, let alone sports. Most recognizable face on the planet. You might be able to make an argument for that with LeBron right now, but most recognizable face on the planet, let alone sports, was Michael Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Also, this might not mean as much to other people, but shoes? Just saying. Look, Michael Jordan ain't played in, almost 20 years?
Yep.
And his shoes are still selling as though he's on the court. Also have to factor that to the GOAT argument. Probably a minor footnote, but at the end of the day, the shoes they matter.
It's a cultural impact.
It's a cultural impact type of thing. Like, Mike's impact on the culture is different. Granted, some people feel like LeBron's impact on the culture maybe to a lesser extent, like the black community, based on the things he's done with his school and some of his activism stuff. I personally think 6 rings does it, like, solidify for LeBron. Okay. But that's also me factoring in the other accomplishments that will have had to come at that time. Because as we sit here right now, he's like somewhere around 3,000 points behind Kareem. That's probably going to come in like the next year or two. So we have to be prepared for that. Mm-hmm. That same 10,000 rebounds, 10,000 assists is going to come at some point in that time frame too. If you give him 2 more rings and they're equal from a ring standpoint and LeBron has those other accomplishments, I think the conversation is done.
I still ain't giving it to him. You want to know why? Because you had to build it to get it.
Yes. Well, keep going. Keep going.
Free agents you had to bring in.
Yep.
Now, that's why people like Nick Wright will sit back and say, well, why you not? Well, give me something other than why Jordan had other than 6-0, why you consider LeBron and not consider LeBron to be the greatest of all time. You had to build your teams, dude. You had to recruit people to come play for you so I can win. And I know Mike has a dominance of, I need people that'll help win for me. But I'm not going to recruit Charles Barkley, Hakeem Olajuwon, Patrick Ewing, Sean Kemp, all these guys to come play with me so I can win. I'm gonna play with the team that they put out there, and I'm gonna make it known about that.
Yep.
When you do that, in my eyes, it diminishes your value.
So, valid point. Counterpoint for me.
Okay.
I think if the roles were reversed and Mike was playing in this time period, Mike would do the teaming up because Mike wouldn't want to lose. Mike not going again. You can,
if we swap in careers, is what you're saying.
If Mike had to play from 2003 till now,
okay,
and LeBron had to go play from 84 to 98, I think Mike would be doing the same teaming up that we knock some of these other athletes for doing because Mike does not want to lose. Me personally, I feel indifferent when it comes to the free agency because, again, I think today's era warrants the need to have to team up in a sense. When you go against a team like the Spurs with Duncan, Parker, Ginobili, you need some guys that can go with that. When you go against Steph, Clay, and Durant, Mike's not going against that by himself.
What did Kobe do?
Kobe's approach was different.
Okay.
But Kobe's mentality was also different. Kobe wanted to be the man. And he wanted it known that he was the man. Did
he like to lose? He
did not like to lose. But Kobe also took some L's because Kobe didn't get out of his own way, if we're being 100% honest.
And what did Mike do? There was times Mike didn't want to get out of his own way.
Right, but a lot of that was early on. If we talking about building teams, the Bulls built a team catered to Mike. It just wasn't riddled with free agent stars. They built it with role players that catered to everything that Mike didn't need to do.
Draft.
Built through the draft, all that. LeBron, again, being 100% honest, LeBron never had any of that catering to him in Cleveland the first time around. They allowed that man to go to the finals, carry Zydrunas Ilgauskas, Danielle Marshall, and Boobie Gibson to the finals, and then they let that man play with the same exact team the next year.
Because they felt like they can get back.
They got swept. Okay,
in the finals, right? They did.
Right. So what good does getting back if you're going to get your ass kicked anyway?
Depending on who I'm going up against.
I don't care who they would have. So you mean to tell me, okay, they went against the Spurs in 07. If they'd have got up against the Lakers in 08 with Powell and Andrew Bynum no, they're losing that series.
The 91 finals between the Lakers and the Bulls.
The Bulls were the better team. The Bulls were still the better team. It wasn't by much, but that was an older Lakers team.
Which is granted. Okay, then we'll say that. We give them that.
I think if you're going to say any one particular team was great that Mike went against,
that could have been better, you had to say the Jazz. And they were older.
Yeah, they were old. Like that, that's a little unfair. So the Sonics.
Okay.
If the Sonics had a third superstar, I would say that might have been the equivalent of some of the teams LeBron has had to go against.
Okay, they didn't have a third superstar. They had a solid player in Detlef Schrempf, right. And who was an all-star, mind you. Let's not sit here and act like he wasn't no slouch.
Yeah, Schrempf was good,
thing was,
but he's not Clay. If we're talking about Steph, KD, and Klay Thompson.
Oh.
It's just
I know he didn't get the chance where he was shooting it lights out like Clay would, but he wasn't no slouch where you sitting there saying, you can give me 20-25 if we give you the ball, give it to you,
yeah.
You can give me those 20-25 a night. He was a stud, man. In Dallas and Indiana, he wasn't no punk. When he got over to Seattle, he was trying to get himself a ring.
I don't think that that era's competition in terms of finals opponents for Mike, he never had to run into anything. I feel like if you just take the teams that they've played in the finals and you line them up in one single file line, and you are told, hey, pick the best teams in order out of this bunch, I'd probably say the top 3 or 4 of those teams are going to be LeBron's opponents as opposed to Mike's. You got the 2017
the wins, right?
Yeah, so just going year by year. 2018 Warriors with Durant at the top of the list. I would put that 2014 Spurs team above anything that Mike.
You talking about the losses now?
Yeah, so I'm saying, like, if just again ranking their opponents, finals appearances, win, lose, or draw.
All right.
I'm taking the Spurs in 2014 over any of Mike's opponents. As far as who was the better team. Duncan, Ginobili, Parker, and Kawhi.
Yeah, because it sounds like you also going by talent too.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just overall
Yeah,
talent.
if you're going by talent, then anything LeBron went up against is going to be better than anything Mike did.
So, but again, that's why I also can't hold him. I can't hold the losses against him as hard as other people do, because the losses that he has, the only loss that he has in the finals in a series that he should have won was Dallas. It was just so ugly that people are going to continue to hold that one over his head.
Yeah, and a lot of people do that is because of what he did earlier that year. That's the reason.
Yeah. Not one, not two. Like, if he never does any of that, we probably don't even trip off of the Dallas loss. We just say it's a growing pain with, new team.
Just getting a whole new team together, right? And you getting there, and honestly, if we gonna be real, if he didn't do what he did to Chicago, or what Miami did to Chicago, how they adjusted, and because Derrick Rose had no other real offensive option, the Bulls would be in the finals instead of the Heat. But they didn't have no weapons, so they locked up Derrick Rose.
The offense was not equipped for that series.
It was not. After that game, when I was like, oh, yeah. They said, lock up.
Is that the game that
Derrick Rose,
Taj Gibson dunked on Udonis Haslem?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay. So it was. Yeah, it got dicey in that game, but after that, they flipped the switch. So I think if LeBron gets to 6 rings, that argument starts just to become more and more impossible. Especially if he's playing close to the level he's at right now by the time that he calls it quits. LeBron 36 right now. Like,
playing out of his mind.
You're 18, 36 years old. He's playing like he's still in his prime. So
his prime is not over yet.
So, again, hypothetically speaking, Lakers win this year. Let's say they come close to winning, but maybe not win next year. People are probably going to start to be like, okay, the GOAT conversation is over with. If they pull off this one, of course, it's a back-to-back. That's back-to-backs with 2 different teams.
Mike couldn't do that. Mike couldn't do that one, man. He couldn't go to another team and then and see, that's the other part of the argument that people love to use, is that Mike couldn't go to another team and he could send them to the finals, but LeBron can, but now he considered da-da-da-da-da. Hey, I'm going to say is, that's why I like to use GOAT as GOTE, greatest of this era, or greatest of the era. And we can sit back all day, every day, and say that LeBron James is the greatest of this era. Michael was the greatest of his era. Bill Russell, the greatest of his era. Wilt Chamberlain. Because a lot of people are like, why you don't put Wilt Chamberlain in the GOAT conversation?
Nah. Wilt were 1-8 in the finals.
Most dominant force.
He played against Bill Russell and lost basically every time he played against Bill Russell.
Because they played team ball.
Yeah. But and also the Celtics had 11 Hall of Famers.
That was Jerry West. That was the 1-8.
Oh yeah, I'm sorry. Wilt Chamberlain didn't play in all of those finals, did he?
Didn't play in all of them. But he was part of one of the greatest teams of all time, the 72 team.
Yeah, 71, 72.
So
look, 6 rings. If LeBron can get to 6, I think the conversation's done.